A prime example of men not wanting to commit to a marriage but want to play house is literally Queen and Clarence. Clarence, I don't even understand why this man don't want to marry Queen. He is literally playing in his girl face, and Queen is trying to keep a poker face, acting like she don't give a fuck that this man not finna marry her. I don't understand. Both of them are very much so well established. They got their lives together. They got a whole kid together. Like what? Like I don't understand.
Big Sean just does not want to be married, and I just wish he would say that instead of just coming up with all these different excuses. Like, girl, I'm sorry, everybody, girl, but girl, if you don't want to be married, then just say that. Instead of you sitting around talking about, oh, marriage is like such a big commitment. So is having kids. So is having a baby. My whole thing is, y'all break up, and you come back years later, y'all have a kid, and you still don't want to be married, then we're going to have a big problem. I just wish he would say that instead of just, like, coming up with these different excuses. Like, if you don't want to be married, then that's your prerogative. I mean, it is what it is, but...
This is truly no tea, no shade, but I personally feel like I see a lot more people around my age, like 25, 26, having children and then either getting engaged or getting married, or they're just in long-term commitments with people and they have babies and they have no desire to get married. And there's nothing wrong with having no desire to get married. I just want to know the kid, like having a kid in the midst of just a long-term commitment, what makes you want to have the baby instead of like getting engaged and then having a baby, or just having single parenthood? Like, I don't know. And it's truly like no shade, no tea. I just want to know, how did having a baby become less of a commitment than being engaged to someone or getting married? And I know not everyone's goal is marriage. Not everyone's goal is having a kid. But if you're dating someone long term and then you guys get pregnant, is the goal after having a baby, if you're committed to this person, not to get married? Because I assume that's what would happen after you have this baby. You're like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get engaged or get married. Like, is there like a societal pivot? Like, what's happening? What's going on?
Another thing I can't stand that we fall for all the time is marriage doesn't guarantee security. Marriage doesn't guarantee you're going to have a happy life. For women, it gives you more of a chance. Because, and I'm not bashing single moms. If you're a single mom, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to the young ladies who haven't had children yet. You're giving yourself a better chance, a better outcome if you are married. And I'm not saying this from a place of sitting on a high horse. Believe me, if it wasn't for God, hello, if it wasn't for certain things, then I possibly too could have been a single mom. But now on the other side of being married and being covered, there are men who don't even like their wives, but will fight and protect and take care of them because that's their wife. So don't let people say that titles don't matter, all of that. That is a lie. That is a lie. Men do not play about their wives, whether they like them or not. So you give yourself a better chance as a woman to be covered in marriage than doing it single. Just my opinion.
Why do y'all be acting like getting married is a much bigger commitment than having children? Like, that's the part that really be like, huh? What? I don't like how people be acting like being married is like a sentence. Y'all know what I'm saying. Like, it's just the worst thing in the world. But what's the worst thing in the world is buying Pampers when I want a ribeye. Okay? The worst thing in the world is being stuck with a child by someone I don't never want to marry. I don't know. It just don't be eating when y'all be trying to convince us. I know it's not my business, but y'all put it on here so I can say what I want to say. But I just truly don't get, how is having a child a smaller commitment than getting married? You can get a divorce. You can't unparent someone. Like, you can hide the kid from the mom or the dad, but you can't unhave the child. Like, you know what I mean? It's a little confusing to me, that's all. I'm just a little confused.
So y'all mean to tell me that it should just be okay to want children but not to want marriage? That's insane. Like, when you say it out loud, I want kids but I don't want no husband. Like that, like, just logically, who, like, does your children even matter? Like, you want a child for your own selfish reasons, but what about the family that your child deserves. How are you risking your life to make such a huge commitment to give to a man, but you don't want marriage? Why not? You know why? Because in our community, in the black community, it is not a priority to be married. It is not encouraged to be married. People promote, and they always ask you all the time, when are you having kids? Nobody ever says when are you going to get married. Why are you not married yet? That is the norm. So many women are coming out and talking about like, well, that's not meant for everybody. Okay, but who says everybody is meant to be a mother? Because we clearly see half the women out here having children ain't qualified at all, but they still doing it.
Welcome back to my channel, back in another video, and I'm here to talk about a topic that I have seen circulating around online in the last couple of years, but more so recently with this whole Big Sean clip that went around of him speaking about him and Jhene, and then Queen and Clarence celebrating their anniversary. I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on the broader topic at hand, which is this idea that people are viewing marriage as more of a commitment than having a child. It's a concept that I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around, to be completely honest. And here's the thing, my whole views of marriage, right? So obviously marriage is not for everybody. I want to go ahead and make that disclaimer that I don't believe that everybody should get married. I don't believe that, marriage is for everybody. I don't think that everybody is meant to have the same type of relationship style. Everybody's relationships are so different. People have different dynamics, and I truly think that people should do what works for them. And I also believe that people are entitled to have a different way of viewing relationships and operating in their relationships, even if it differs from what society tells them that they should do, right? And so the concept of marriage has evolved over time, right? There was a point in time where people were more encouraged to get married for stability and for financial reasons, but as of recent times, that's not the case. And a lot of people are starting to question the value of marriage, the purpose of marriage, especially if it's outside of anything religious, because a lot of people get married for religious reasons. Some religions do arranged marriages, but just in general, if you are a religious person, marriage is held to a very high standard, is looked at as a life goal for a lot of people. And so you're seeing a lot of people have this debate online about marriage, especially because you're seeing nowadays marriages just are not lasting in the ways that maybe our parents or our grandparents' marriages did. And you have a lot of people saying that, oh, it's because, back then people would stay in relationships even if it was abusive and if it was harmful and they didn't want to be in it, but they felt like they had to stay in it. And although that is very true, and I do feel that there were a lot of women who went through that, I can't sit here and say that it's all. I don't think it's fair to say that people who are in their 70s and their 80s and they've been married for 30, 40 years, I don't think it's fair to say that all of those marriages were toxic and that the woman wanted to leave but couldn't. Yes, that happened a lot, but I don't think you can put that on everybody. I do think that there are some beautiful marriages out there. We just don't tend to see them. And I think because a lot of times we look at these celebrity and high profile marriages and people, idolize these relationships and they look up to these relationships. When you see in the news, all of these couples breaking up, people look at that and go, oh, people are not staying together anymore. People don't value marriage. And so I wanted to come in here and kind of talk about, the current conversations that are happening. So the first thing that kind of made people start talking about this topic again was Queen and Clarence. So for those of y'all who don't know, Queen and Clarence are social media influencers. Queen started her whole career on YouTube with her previous partner, and then she evolved and grew into a full-blown R&B artist. She's signed with Capitol Records, I believe. If I'm wrong, politely correct me in the comments. But she is a R&B artist, and Queen has one of the most angelic voices I know, okay? And you can call it a Gen Z thing, whatever, but I think Queen has an amazing voice, that she actually makes some amazing music. She's extremely talented. And, in the midst of her last relationship and her last marriage ending, she met Clarence, and, their relationship progressed very fast. She actually got into that relationship pretty fast after Chris, who she was married to previously. And fast forward to today, they've been together for 6 years. They have 2 kids together. And Queen has historically talked about in the past, her wanting to be married. Like, she prefers marriage. Like, that's kind of always been her goal in life, is to get married. And she had a marriage before, but that marriage ended, due to infidelity and things that were going on in her previous marriage. But she's always made it clear that she's always been for marriage. However, people have kind of been getting on Clarence because it seems like he's kind of dragging his feet with the whole marriage thing. And they recently made a video celebrating their 6-year anniversary. And also, this is coming off of a video that they just did that they also got backlash for, where they were talking about, if a woman is in a relationship with a man for 10 years and he hasn't proposed yet, should she leave? And it was interesting because Clarence was like, oh, well, she's been there for 6 years. Clearly, she's not going nowhere. And Queen was like, well, no, if she really wants it, then she should leave. And so it was interesting because, they were answering this fan question, but they were kind of giving insight to how they both view long-term relationships and what the end goal is, right?
All right, next question. Boyfriend of 10 years, not asking to marry me. We've been living together for 4 years. After 10 years? 10 years?
10 years is crazy.
One of those
talk about me, 10 years?
After 10 years, and y'all been living together for 4 years, so y'all do have experience with living together. What you gotta say about it? I want to hear your take on it first.
I mean, you should probably have a conversation or maybe see if he has that maybe in his head, or is he planning to do it or not. I don't know, maybe there's something stopping him from doing it. Maybe you need to communicate with that. Like, 10 years is a pretty long time. That's pretty long.
Yeah, maybe y'all should to go to therapy or something and see if what exactly is stopping him. If you've been doing everything you could do, honestly, I just feel like a man knows. I just feel like he knows. He knows if you
What would you do in that predicament?
I will leave.
After 10 years?
Yes, I definitely leave. 10 years is crazy. It is because.
What if she's like 48?
48?
What if she's like 48? You don't know how old that lady is.
Babe, your life is not over at 48 or 50. I've seen 50-year-old women. J-Lo is past 50. Like, it's beautiful women out there. You can still get yourself together. It's never too late. I don't think it's too late.
Nah, it's never too late. I'm not saying it's too late. I'm just saying I think that would make it a little more
difficult.
Yeah, you just don't know what predicament she's in, because you gotta understand, in order to put yourself in her shoes, like, you're saying it easy, like, oh, I would leave, but she hasn't left, obviously, because she's been there for 10 years, so she's not leaving for a
But if that's something that you genuinely really want, and if you find out that your partner has no, first of all, like he said, see if he has intentions of doing it. Have y'all ever talked about it?
He might not. I'm not gonna lie, he might not. 10 years, he might not.
Yeah, but if that's something that you want, but maybe he doesn't want, then maybe you need to break up with your boyfriend to find your husband.
10 years, yeah, 10 years. He might not have it in mind. I'm not gonna lie.
10 years is crazy, I'm being honest. Yeah.
Sweetheart.
You think after 10 years,
10 is a lot.
that's like a decade. No, wait, is it?
That is.
Yeah, that's a decade. Y'all been together for a decade.
And so people noticed that when they were celebrating their 6-year anniversary, Queen seemed very kind of just checked out. She didn't seem very enthused about even celebrating it.
Y'all, I was waiting on Clarence to come get me because I'm about to go get my next car. I'm going to show you guys. He brought me all these roses that I so appreciate. I love roses. I got a lot of flowers and I got to find a vase. But it's our 6-year anniversary. We've been together for 6 years, you guys. So there's that. I don't know if y'all remember, but July 29, 2018, we posted a video, and he basically said that I was his girlfriend on that video. So that's when we made it official, even though we was probably doing things before that video. But yeah, just wanted to throw that little nugget in there. Thank you.
6 years.
Thank you for the roses, sweetheart.
No problem. There's more.
There's more what?
Like there's
more roses?
more surprises.
Thank you.
Not really surprises, but I was gonna book us a vacation in Mexico, Cabo.
Oh, you was gonna do it? For real?
Yeah.
What day?
But even though I want to go to the Olympics, I'm not gonna. We're gonna go to Mexico. I just don't think it's not realistic.
What, the Olympics? Clarence was gonna. Well, we both were supposed to. Wait, let me put these down so we can both talk.
And people have suggested that she's kind of tired at this point, and the fact that they're still, they're living together, they have kids, like they do everything together. It's like, so, why the pause on, the next step? And then, of course, Big Sean did an interview with Charlamagne the God, and Charlamagne asked him, like, hey, why haven't you proposed, or why aren't you married to Jhene yet? Y'all been together for 10 years. And Big Sean basically said, like, oh, we still have some more growing to do. We still have some things to figure out. And people were like, well, after 10 years, what more is there to figure out? And so,
what's stopping y'all from getting married? Like, y'all already did one of those secret industry weddings.
No, there has not been a secret industry marriage. I think that it's a little personal, you know what I mean? But just like, to be real with you, just like any people who have dealt with love, we've had our ups and downs, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's still finding the right navigation through it all. I don't know if to me, marriage symbolizes like the best relationship. People be like, well, you gotta get married. To me, I feel like having a relationship is first and foremost, and like marriage is a byproduct of that. I feel like a lot of people get the idea of like, oh, you have to get married, but then it's like, to me, that's almost a fear-based way of thinking too, because then people be getting divorced. The divorce rate's so fucking high, and I am someone who, I'm not like discounting anything, and I'm not saying that we aren't gonna get married, but what I'm saying is that it's just, I would like to do a lot. I would like to, and I don't like putting our personal business out there like that either, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, I feel like, in general.
Well, think of somebody who's been with their woman for 26 years, right? It's always going to be ups and downs.
Period.
The work's never going to stop.
Yeah.
Especially raising
26
kids.
years?
Been with her 26 years. Got married in 2014.
Oh,
so
shit.
been married for 10.
Wow.
So it's going to always be ups and downs.
What took you 16 years to get married?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, right? Again, I don't think marriage is for everybody. I don't think marriage should be pushed on everybody. And I think everybody has different timelines, Like, I know of some couples who, they dated for what society would deem as a really long time, but then eventually they did get married and do the whole thing. It just took them a little bit longer. So I don't believe that everybody should have the same timeline. I think it's really weird when people are like, oh, you shouldn't need no more than 2 years of dating before you know if you want to marry the person. Let me tell you something. And listen, I'm also not excusing or necessarily siding with Big Sean in his thoughts, but I kind of just want to get this thought out because I do feel like there's this pressure to rush into everything, right? And no, 10 years is not rushing. So again, what I'm saying right now does not apply to Big Sean and Jhene, because respectfully, 10 years is like, all right, dude. But on a separate note though, for me, I am going to be moving at a snail's pace. Okay, because I've been through the whole rushing into everything, and you feeling so sure about this person, and you just want to go ahead and make things happen. And it really is true that the faster you fall in love, the faster you crash and burn. Because with my last relationship, right, I started dating that person only after a month of talking. Yes, you heard that correctly. We had only known each other for a month, and because I was a lover girl, and I tend to fall hard fast, and he was kind of the same way. Like, he's also someone that falls for people really, really fast. It took like no time to determine that we really liked each other, and so we started dating after a month of talking, and then even a month of dating, we immediately were like, oh yeah, we're like deeply in love at this point. So I've been through the whole because there was also this thing too of like, oh well, if we don't pursue this now, then someone else could snatch you up. Like, it was also that like type of fear mindset as well. And again, I do not recommend that at all. Okay, I learned my lesson, because at the end of the day, it takes a minute to really learn a person. And for me, I hold marriage to a very high standard. And for me, I would never want to jump into a marriage with somebody without fully knowing them through and through. And I'm sorry, you cannot determine that within a month of dating, within 3 months of dating, and I would even argue within the first year. Like, I'm sorry, like for me, I'm going to need a couple of years of dating. I need to see you through multiple seasons. I need to see you when you're stressed. I need to see you when you're grieving. I need to see you when life is lifing. I need to see you when life isn't going well. I need to see how you're handling that and how you're going to handle me in those situations. I need to also see too if the person that you say you are in the beginning is who you really are, because I've dealt with that too. I've dealt with, oh, this person presented themselves to be in one way, and then I fall in love with who you presented yourself to be, even if that wasn't who you really were. And then again, you can't hide that forever. So then at a certain point, they start to kind of show who they really are, and it's like, oh wait, you're a completely different person than who I decided to be with. But because your emotions are involved, it's kind of hard to break that and to see through that. So you end up feeling stuck, or you try to still stay loyal to somebody even though you feel like you don't even know who they are anymore. And so for me, I am going to be extremely cautious moving forward. I'm talking about the dating, not even the dating phase, the talking phase, the getting to know each other phase. For me, it needs to be at least maybe 1 to 2 years, and then we date for like 3 to 5, and then we can maybe start talking about marriage. Like, I'm very like, because I've seen how people can literally switch up, and people are really good at hiding a persona, and people think like, oh, you should be able to know after a month or two who you're with. No, some people can keep that up for a really long time. And so for me, I know I'm not rushing into nothing. But with that being said though, 6 years, 10 years, it is a little excessive, especially if you're older, right? It's one thing if you start dating in high school, right? I think in those regards, it does make sense to date for some years until you decide to make that bigger commitment. But to each their own. There are some people who they do get engaged and married after a month of knowing each other, and then they go on to be married for 30 plus years. It can happen. Like, not everybody has the same outcome depending on, your timeline. With that being said though, I think it's important that you and your partner are on the same page. And I think what people are feeling in regards to Jhene and in regards to Queen, it comes across like the woman is the one that's wanting the bigger commitment and the next step, but the men are kind of holding back. There was literally a clip going around of Jhene kind of poking fun, I guess, at Big Sean, because I guess he was singing a lyric about giving a girl a ring, and she was like, oh, what ring? And so, it's giving that women are finding themselves in these relationships with men, and they want the bigger commitment. They want the wedding, but the man doesn't. And it's interesting because you're seeing a lot more online men expressing how they aren't prioritizing marriage right now. And when they speak about marriage, it's in a very negative way. It's very much like, well, why am I going to rush to get married just so we can divorce and the woman takes all my money, or, just so I can be miserable? Like, they don't look at marriage as a positive thing, so much so that when you see couples divorcing, and you'll often see the woman say like, I wasn't happy, I was miserable in this marriage, you'll often see men say, well, marriage isn't about happiness, it's not about being happy. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, yeah, obviously you're not going to be happy 24/7. That's a given. But if every single day for you is, you're feeling miserable and you're not being loved, you're not being taken care of properly, why would you expect anyone to stay in that? And that goes for men and women. Like, if a man is in a relationship and he's not happy, and, he's the only one doing the work, and, he's expressed him not being happy and nothing's being done about it, then yeah, the man should leave too. I think, like, if you are unhappy, here's the thing. Again, you're not always going to be happy. But if you're unhappy, you voiced your concerns, right? I think that's the other thing that people miss. Sometimes people don't voice their concerns. They just hop up and leave. And I don't agree with that at all. As someone that has had that happen to them, if you are having concerns or issues in your relationship, that needs to be communicated, right? So if you communicated that and you've given it an honest effort and it's just not working, then it's time to end things. But why not at least try? I don't like the fact that people automatically view marriage as this thing that's just doomed to end. You're going to be miserable. Like, it's just all your money's going to be taken from you. And it's like, why is that the only perception? And I think it's because of the media. I think the media does not portray marriage in a positive light. We're always always seeing how the divorce rate is high. We're seeing all these celebrity couples break up. And again, I don't think that anybody should base their love life off of what celebrities are doing. But, people are seeing, celebrities break up. Maybe you have people in your life that have broken up. And because people's, hearts are, they're fragile. Like, my heart is fragile. That's why part of me is like, well, maybe I just won't date again. Maybe I won't get married because I cannot handle the heartbreak. So I get it to that extent. But it's just interesting though how even though people are so anti-marriage, they're very pro having children. People are very quick to have children. And again, I know everybody's not into marriage. I know everyone is not religious. And there's some people who they just want kids, they want to have a family. I know there's some people who believe in the idea of having a life partner, right? So they don't believe in the legalities of, going to the courthouse or having a wedding and having like legal documents that you're married. Some people want to live that married life without the paperwork. And I respect that. Everyone has the right to live their life the way that they want to live it. However, it's interesting to me how people will look at marriage as more of a commitment and as more of a risk than raising a child. That's the part that I don't quite understand. Like, because to me, kids are a lifetime commitment no matter what. Your kids are your responsibility until you leave this earth. It's not just until they turn 18. I feel like that's a huge misconception that parents have. Like, oh, when they turn 18, I don't have to deal with him anymore. I don't have to deal with her anymore. No. As long as this kid is living and breathing on this earth, y'all are going to be tied together no matter what. And so for me, I'm like, okay, yes, divorce is very messy and marriages can, have its ups and downs, but at least you do have an out. At least you are able to end things if it doesn't work out. And marriage also comes with a lot of security as well. And I don't know, for me, I think because I also view raising children and bringing children to this world as a huge responsibility. As somebody that came from a single parent household, I would never ever want to risk having to raise a child on my own. And that's something that, I've had conversations about with, friends of mine about if having kids is even in the cards for me, because there are some people out there who they want kids so badly that they're willing to pick anybody to help them get there, or they're willing to do it on their own. We saw Ebony K. Williams just announced that, she's pregnant and she's being a single mother by choice. She wants motherhood that much that she's willing to do it on her own. And again, I don't shame people for that, especially if you have like the resources, and I'm sure she also has the community to help her as well. But it's just interesting, people are so like, oh my God, marriage, oh my God. But when it comes to having a kid, it's like, oh, yeah, sure, let's have a kid. And it's like, you're responsible for a human. Like, that's such a big responsibility, and I don't think that should be taken lightly. And so it's not even so much that I think people need to get married or that they have to get married to have a kid, but I don't like how having children is just not valued or seen as a huge responsibility. The same way you have to be cautious about who you marry, you also have to be cautious about who you have a child with, because you don't know how that person is as a parent. And if you're already iffy about them as a partner, imagine how they're going to be as a parent. And yes, you have some instances where you have people who may not be good partners or may not be good partners for you, but they raise their children and they love their children amazingly. They show up like they're an amazing parent, but they're not an amazing partner. I understand stuff like that can happen as well, but why would you not at least try? I think is my thing. I think people just off rip are like, yeah, no, marriage it's the worst thing in the world. I'm not even gonna bother. I'ma just, but it's like, I don't, and I guess maybe this is an unpopular opinion, and I know I'm going to get pushed back on this. I know people are going to say like, oh, well, not everybody wants to get married. And I acknowledge that at the very beginning of the video, that not everybody wants to get married, and I do respect that. But kids are not accessories, and having a child in itself is already a selfish act, right? There's nothing selfless about having a child, no matter how you look at it. Like, no child on this earth, none of us asked to be here. Nobody asked to be on this earth when they were born, right? And so it is your duty and your responsibility to make sure that if you are going to have a child, that they're going to be raised right and preferably under the same roof. Because also, a lot of people came from broken homes. A lot of us came from broken home. So why would you want to potentially repeat that? Yes, marriage does not guarantee anything. You could get married to somebody, have kids the right way, and things could still end, and you could still end up doing the whole, co-parenting situation. But I don't know. It's weird that's the only version of marriage people think of. Like, people think of marriage, it's nope, this is doomed. This is not gonna work. We're gonna have to co-parent anyway. We're gonna have to split finances anyway. I might as well do that now than to even bother and to even try. And that's where I'm like, okay. And I get it to a certain extent in terms of why people view marriage so negatively. Again, I think it's partly how the media portrays it, but also how people were raised. There are a lot of people who were exposed to toxic marriages through their parents. They saw their parents in toxic marriages, and so that's how they view marriage. So they're like, well, I'm not gonna repeat that. I'm not gonna make that same mistake. I'm not gonna, get into a marriage and then it could go off the rails. I'm gonna just avoid that part altogether. I get it, but I don't think that's a healthy way of looking at it. And again, it's easier said than done. A lot of this stuff we have to, unpack and heal from, but again, it's interesting too, right? Because, again, there's a lot of women, not all, but there's a lot of women out there who are in relationships hoping that marriage will come, but then, the man may not want the same thing. It's also interesting to me too that certain men will view women as mothers, right? Like, oh, she would be a great mother to my child. I know my child's going to be raised well, but you don't view her as a wife. I feel like the two go hand in hand, in my opinion. Like, I would not want to get married to somebody who I also couldn't see as a great parent to my child. Like, so much to where it's like, okay, in the event this doesn't work out, I know that no matter what, they're going to show up and they're going to be there for my child. And so it was interesting how a man can see a woman as a mother, or vice versa. A woman can see a man as, a father to her kids, but then they can't see themselves as like committed partners to each other. To me, I don't know. And again, you can have it to where someone could be an amazing parent, but not an amazing partner. But also, again, sorry, unpopular opinion, why would you have a kid with somebody that you don't feel as though could be committed to you? Like, if I felt like someone couldn't be a good partner to me, I'm not giving them a child. I'm not giving them that honor and that privilege of being a parent and us having a child together if I feel like they couldn't do right by me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's also that argument too of like, well, if you're treating the mother of your child bad, does that really make you a good parent? And I kind of agree with that. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the two go hand in hand. Yes, I know, again, there's not a one size fits all to these relationships, but I don't like how there's such a heavy push for anti-marriage. Let people do what they want and let people want what they want too. Like, if you have people out there who are like, yes, I want to get married, don't be in their comment section talking about well, marriage is not going to guarantee anything and why do you want to get married? It's just a piece of paper. Let people want what they want. Let people want what they want. And again, what I'm saying right now could be going in one ear and out the other. If you're someone that just from the beginning does not desire marriage, I don't recommend that you get married then. If you're someone that does want children though, I just would encourage you to think about the type of environment that your child will be growing up in. And if you are someone that came from a divorced household or a toxic household, think about how that impacted you as a child and think about, do I want to put my future child through the same thing? I encourage everyone to think about those things. Again, stuff happens. You can go into a marriage or you can have a child with somebody with the best intentions and everything is peaches and cream. And then when you do decide to get married or when you do decide to have a child, that person could completely flip the script, or you might find something out about that person and now things ended, right? I understand that those things happen and I understand why people would try to prevent them from happening. But also, I don't know, like I'm just, it's interesting to see how anti-marriage this generation is. And not even just my generation, like millennials, like all of them, like everybody is just very like, yeah, no. And I'll even speak for me. Again, I do hold marriage to a high standard, and marriage has always been something that I wanted for myself, not just for religious reasons, but also just because I value partnership. Like I want a partner. I want someone that I can share my life with. But just seeing how people are moving nowadays and just seeing the lack of loyalty that people have. That's the other thing too. People feel like they have unlimited options nowadays. And so people don't even put forth the effort to try. And yes, obviously you should not stay in anything that is toxic and that is not serving you. Again, both genders. If you are in something that is not working, you feel like you're being mistreated or not heard, and you feel like your partner is just not prioritizing the relationship or putting towards that effort and energy, no, don't force it. Do not force it. But I feel like nowadays people just, they don't even try. They don't even, like, even when there are situations that rise, that come up, that can be worked on and can be worked through, people don't bother. They're just like, okay, let me go find somebody else. Let me just go find somebody else. Like, there's no sense of loyalty anymore, or at least I feel like it's lacking a lot. I don't see it, and I haven't experienced that. Like, I'm a very loyal person, and the way that my loyalty is set up, I just feel like it doesn't align with what's going on today. Nowadays, it's like people just are popping in and out of relationships like it's nothing. People are popping out babies like it's nothing, and that's just not the type of energy that I'm on. So I'm now on the energy of like, okay, if I have to take marriage off of my life goals, if I have to say, you know what, I may not ever bring a child into this world, I'm making peace. I'm trying to make peace with the fact that I may not get married. I've already made peace with me not having kids, because I just don't feel like it's worth bringing them into this world if I'm not 110% sure that I'm going to have that support to make sure that they're being raised in a healthy, happy environment. And until I start to see some changes, or if I happen to find, you know, a fish in the sea somewhere that is somehow able to convince me otherwise, I'm cool. I'm chilling. Like, I'm not rushing anything, you know, and I don't think anyone else should either. But with that being said, though, speaking for me, you don't have to agree. It's okay to disagree, y'all. It's okay to disagree. You don't have to, you know, attack people online and come at them just because they have a difference of opinion. Okay, this is my opinion. This is how I feel. These are my personal views on this. I view kids just as much as a commitment as marriage. So I will not be, you know, again, things happen, but I will make it a goal of mine to never bring a child into this world unless I have that commitment. Yes, I know that commitment could end. It could not work out. But for me, I need that commitment. I need that ring on my finger before I decide to bring a child and go through the risks of childbirth and postpartum and everything that comes with bringing a child into this world. I need that commitment. And for me, that level of commitment that I need is marriage. It is for me. Again, it may be different for other people, but for me, I need that. And so, you know, I don't think people should be blamed for wanting that. And again, if you don't want that, just make sure that you and the person that you're with are on the exact same page. I don't think anybody should be settling. I think people deserve to have the things that they want in life. So you have one person that is not prioritizing marriage, but the other person is, it might be time to revisit that relationship. And I know it's easier said than done. Trust and believe. As somebody who was not gonna leave unless that person left, trust me, it is easier said than done to leave and to end things if y'all are not aligned. But for the sake of you and your happiness, you have to do what's best for you. You have to prioritize the things that mean the most to you. And, you know, don't allow public perception or the opinions of other people around you to influence how you want to live your life. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say on this particular topic. If you guys have any thoughts, views, perspectives on the whole marriage conversation, how you view marriage and how society views marriage, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys go ahead, give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.